Hello, I'm Indy. I've just come back from Europe where I was lucky enough to attend the Berlinale Film Festival, the 75th one to be particular, so quite a milestone. I feel very lucky to be able to attend and to be able to watch the films, and I'm just here to give a little review and ranking on all the films that I watched. Honourable mention, technically not a Berlinale film, wasn't showing as a part of anything, but I did see it while over in Europe, so to me it counts. It was David Lynch's Inland Empire. I went in knowing nothing, apart from that it was David Lynch's last film, and so I got a bunch of my friends all excited, and we all went to go see this movie. We didn't know it was 3 hours long, and then everyone proceeded to somewhat hate me for making them watch that movie. One of my mates, who was sitting in the front row, by the way, this was in a small little theatre where you could touch the screen from the front row. He was sitting with his neck craned like this the entire movie. And as soon as the credits rolled, he turned around and go, "Indy, I'm going to kill you." Look, I'm still glad I saw it, and I'm glad I saw it in a cinema. And also, there are parts in the film which are in Polish, but because we were in Berlin, all of those parts were subtitled in German. So there's a good 30 minutes that don't make any sense to the English-speaking Australians that were watching. The first actual film that we saw that was actually a part of the festival was Welcome Home, Baby, which was a German horror film. It was a part of the Panorama, so it wasn't technically in the Berlinale competition. Look, at the time, I think we were really excited. It was the first film we saw. We saw it in this beautiful theatre called the Zoopalast. We were all excited. I saw it with the 5 other guys who were in my room at the hostel. Opening night, the cast and crew were there. It was very exciting. We were all very hyped. And I think that added to us liking it a little bit more than we should have, because it was not that good upon reflection. I know this sounds mean, but yeah, it was very much a bit generic, very much the idea of like, what do they call it? Elevated horror, where it's a bunch of symbolism and themes, but it doesn't really go anywhere. I remember at the little Q&A they held afterwards, the person was asking about like, there was a lot of symbolism and all that, and the director was kind of being like, yeah, we meant for the audience to have their own interpretation. Kind of just came across as though they didn't know what they were doing, and they just chucked in a bunch of crucifixes and water and sort of hoped that the audience would come up to an interpretation. It didn't feel like it had a strong through line. And again, this is coming sort of a few days after I saw Inland Empire, which is one of the most confusing films ever, and that felt like it had somewhat of a through line. So, yeah, just felt a bit, not the strongest start to the festival. I'd like to apologise. While I was in Europe, I lost my voice, and I haven't been able to find it. So the next day, we saw a movie called Hot Milk, which was starring Emma Mackey from Sex Education. Went in knowing nothing. I just booked it because it said press, and press was like very prestigious. Turns out press is not super prestigious. It's just an early screening before the actual proper red carpet. So that way, a bunch of reviewers and press can watch the movie, work on their review, and then by the time they're allowed to publish their review, they can publish their review without having to watch the movie and then quickly write a review. So, yeah, I did like this movie quite a bit. I liked it, especially coming off of Welcome Home, Baby. I liked it quite a bit. Beautiful cinematography. Welcome Home, Baby had very much it feels like this type of cinematography that you would find on like YouTube, like how to, like good cinematography, where it's like, put a strong light here, shoot on the dark side of the face, all of those like standard rules. This was not as much that. It was very much like, it's just a beautiful vista, so it's kind of easy to have good images when you're shooting beautiful things. There was a romance part of this film which didn't necessarily work for me. I remember speaking to other people, and it didn't really work for them either. It just didn't feel as developed. The real main draw of this film is the mother-daughter relationship, which is brilliantly acted by the 2 main actresses. But yeah, there were just some things that felt like unnecessary, but overall, quite a good film, and felt like a proper film, and it makes sense that it's in the competition. So we were quite happy to watch that after Welcome Home, Baby. And then later that day, I saw After Dreaming. Look, I was kind of excited by the first few shots. The first few shots are in a really nice, kind of interesting look. They clearly use a tilt shift lens, and the way that works is that I could be in focus, but even someone next to me who should be in focus, because like the plane of focus is tilted, they would be out of focus. So it's quite an interesting look, adds to a sort of surreal vibe. This was not that enjoyable of a film. I was close to falling asleep, and then a 10-minute music montage with some of the loudest instruments I've ever heard sort of brought me back up and made me realize, nope, I don't even get the chance to sleep in this film. The guy next to me did fall asleep. I also saw this film alone, which is never that comforting and never that exciting. Although I did see the director, she was like very young. Like she was like my age or something. It was crazy. Yeah, as I walked out, I heard like probably proper critics talking about it, and they mentioned that it felt like a short film, and then it was just padded out to 90 minutes, which is probably a very accurate idea and makes sense for a young filmmaker. Feels like that's a common trap to fall into. The next day, early in the morning, we saw Mickey 17, which was probably many of ours most anticipated film from the festival. Bong Joon-ho obviously made Parasite. You probably know who Bong Joon-ho is. Look, others probably didn't like it as much. It made me found the tone a bit too goofy, a bit too silly. I liked it a lot. Mark Ruffalo was great. Toni Collette was great. Robert Pattinson was amazing. He's great in everything. One critique that I can sort of see is that the tone jumps around a lot. Normally, Bong is quite a good master at juggling tone. I mean, Parasite, for the first 30 minutes, is like a comedy heist. And you're like, oh my God, these guys are going to do it. They're going to get it. They got him. And then the last 20 minutes is like a horror film. Yeah, just really good stuff. Kind of a bit of an interesting happy ending, which I feel like for Bong is not that common. I feel like he often has quite satirical or quite somewhat pessimistic endings. But no, this was a good like a happy ending, which I kind of liked. I don't necessarily like all my films to be negative, pessimistic. You know, everything sucks and it's all gone to shit. Then we saw a retrospective. This was later that day. We saw a retrospective, which is an old movie that they're playing again. This was a movie called Deadlock. It was a Western. Looks like it was shot in America. Had dubbed over voices. We went to the wrong auditorium, and then we had to then catch a train for 20 minutes. So we rocked up around 10 minutes late and kind of missed some of the context. Interesting film. I don't really have a lot of thoughts on it. There were some cool shots and some interesting shots. It very much feels like a bunch of producers came to like a writer and said, hey, we have this one location, make a film out of it. We have 4 actors, do something. There weren't a lot of like themes. It's very much just like, it felt like an exploitation movie, but without necessarily, there was like one sex scene. Not complaining, I'm not one of those film fans that needs, I'm normal, I'm a normal film fan. And then later that night, I saw something that a lot of other people were anticipated for. I didn't really know that it was actually going on, but it was called sorry, I need to get the title right, The Narrow Road to the Deep North, which is not a film. It is 2 episodes of a TV show, but it is Australian made, starring Jacob Elordi. He was the big star, technically sat in the same room with him. Just saying. Yeah, there was a big line out the front of fans wanting to see him on the red carpet. Yeah, I really like this. It's a World War II film. It's a World War II TV show about Australian prisoners of war in a camp in a country that I've now forgotten. Oh, not the best. It's about Jacob Elordi, who plays this medical doctor, and it's sort of split between 3 timelines. It's split between before he went to the war, when he's just a doctor in training in sort of, country Australia. When he went to the war, and he's still played by Jacob Elordi, and he's, a young guy, and he's and obviously he sees a lot of horrible things because it's war, and he's in a prisoner of war camp, and he's just like, honestly, a really hard TV show to watch at times, because you're just watching these guys who are really like, they have a really good charismatic bond between them. They're all very charming, all very sweet. And then you're just watching them slowly get sick and skinny and die, and it's really hard. It's also hard because I'm Australian, and you're watching Australians die, and it's very easy to sympathise. And then the final timeline is, I think the character's name is Doringo. That doesn't feel right. Whatever his name is, it's him older, I think he's writing a book about his experience in the war, and it's following him. So it's quite interesting to follow those three things, and I'd be very excited to see the full TV show when it comes out. I think it comes out in April, but that was quite a lot of fun to watch that. It also, I was watching an Australian film. It had been maybe 2.5 weeks since I'd been in Australia. I was feeling quite homesick, so it was definitely hit very hard there. But also I thought it was just quite good. Then the next day, we saw a film that was one of the first ones I heard about and was very excited for. It's called Lesbian Space Princess. It was like an animated comedy, also from Australia. Some of our best work. Really. Honestly, one of my favorite films. Probably hit that homesick feeling, but even then, it was just amazing. It has Auntie Donna in it. Auntie Donna, all three members, Mark, Zach, and Broden, all voice. This sort of feels like someone's comfort movie. Like, it feels like, kind of like, in the way that, like, I will watch The Castle, and I will watch purely just the first 30 to 40 minutes, because the first 30 to 40 minutes don't actually have any plot. It's purely just stupid jokes, and they're not even really jokes with punchlines. I think Lesbian Space Princess could be that for, like, my generation, the way that The Castle is for my parents' generation. The three main villains, that was amazing. That was a great surprise. I felt like I was the only one in the cinema laughing, which is weird, because one thing we noticed was sometimes audiences would just laugh at, like, random bits in films that aren't funny. Like in Welcome Home Babies, they would just laugh if, like, there was any moment of silence. It was really odd. And then you're sitting there in a comedy and no one's laughing. It was really weird. Not a fan of the audience. Also, I need to mention this about Mickey 17. They brought up, we were watching it around 10:30 in the morning. They were like, hey, just so you know, you're not allowed to publish a review until 7 p.m. That doesn't matter to me. All I write is letterbox reviews. And when the announcer brought this up, she said it in German and then she said it in English. People booed. Like, grown adults whose job is reviewing movies, they booed. It was crazy. Yeah, I mean, it was like a super prestigious film festival, and we were all expecting, I mean, we're a bunch of uni students who are like, you know, so excited to go to this big thing, and then people are so rude and disrespectful. It was crazy. Anyway, and then later that night, I saw a film called If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Didn't know anything about this going into it. It was Rose Byrne, A24 film, produced by the Safdies, definitely has that feel. Very tense. It's about a mother who has a sick daughter, and basically she has no support system in her life, and it's incredibly tense and, like, a bit of a hard watch in many aspects, but it was really good. I liked it a lot. I don't think I could see it again because it was hard. It was a really hard watch, man. Also, Conan O'Brien's in it. I didn't know that going in. That was hilarious. That was so funny. Because I heard his voice and I went, there's no way that's him. And then it cuts to him and I'm like, that's Conan O'Brien. Got this from the merch shop. Paid way too much for that. I forget that euro is like, it's a lot more than the Australian money. The next day in the morning, I saw a film that I had heard a lot of things about, and we saw the still. The still is, I'll put the Berlinale still up here. And so, because the title was quite long, we were just calling it the Gimsuit Sword movie for quite a while. The film is Reflection in a Dead Diamond. I loved this so much. This was so much fun. I knew nothing about it going in. A bunch of people said it was really abstract. I saw this at like 11 in the morning. Didn't really want a super abstract experimental film. Kind of wasn't really what I wanted from the day. I think this was when I was starting to get sick, so I'm kind of a bit just not in the mood. But wow. I loved it. This isn't really a spoiler, but like the title, it like cuts to like a big boat and it's like reflection in a dead diamond, and then it like swooshes underwater as it like shows like the director and cast. And as soon as that played it, I just felt my head start nodding and a big smile come across my face. I was so excited. I love this movie. It was heaps of fun. It was sort of like a James Bond experimental parody. And I think it just knocked it out of the park. It was like great. Action was great. Like the inventive filmmaking was great. The experimental aspect kind of comes in the transitions. It's very much like, lots of swoops, swooshes, zooms, match cuts, like a lot of that. And it just felt like a lot of fun. It felt very French, which makes sense because it is French. But yeah, it felt like James Bond on acid, and it was a lot of fun, and I loved it. Then later that day, I saw a film that I was quite excited for this film, just based off the title and based off the still and the little synopsis. It's called The Heart is a Muscle, and it's about a father who, when he loses his son, it makes him sort of reconsider his own coming to terms with, how he deals with emotions. That sounds like a drama that I would just absolutely love and would make me cry. And I don't know why, but it just didn't hit me that hard. It's about this father and how he deals with the fear of loving someone like his son, and how he deals with that fear, and how like anger is kind of the first emotion that he would go to. Sounds like something that I would love. I do love films that talk about sort of, masculinity and how that deals with anger and love and relationships, especially between men, which that features because he has these close friends. But it just didn't really hit that hard for me, which is a shame. There was parts where I was kind of welling up, and I think all the acting was great, and it was shot quite beautifully, and I was watching it with people who were also loving it, but it just didn't hit me that hard, which is a shame. I really wanted it to work. I was really rooting for it, so it's a bit of a shame, but I think for others it would be really nice and really beautiful, so I don't want to fully write it off, but yeah, I'd recommend it. It was pretty good. Then the next day we saw the new Richard Linklater and Ethan Hawke collaboration, Blue Moon. The night before I saw it, I got an explanation from one of the guys from my uni who is a big musical theatre fan, and he was basically telling me that these are real guys who made theatre productions together. One would write the music, the other would write the story, and they worked together and they were great. So I got a little bit of the backstory there. Other than that, I knew nothing about any of the real characters, and I found it quite interesting. It is a film set entirely in one setting, one set, easy. So in that way, it is very much like a theatre production in that you have one set, you have, 3 rooms that are all part of this one bar. Really, this could be a theatre play. It might be. I'm not sure. I thought it was quite good. Ethan Hawke is really just great. He's really just going through these monologues. It's mainly him talking for around, I want to say, 70% of the movie. And when it comes to movies directed by Richard Linklater that are Ethan Hawke talking for the majority of the film, I love the Before trilogy, so it worked for me. I liked it a lot. I thought the relationships were great. There was one bit where they referenced Casablanca, and I know I'm going to sound like a fake film student when I say haven't seen Casablanca, so I didn't get that bit. And then they reference it at the start, and then they reference it again later. And then everyone in the cinema that I was watching it clapped, because again, I'm at a film festival, so everyone's a bunch of nerds. And I went, that felt a little cheap. Andrew Scott was in this, which I didn't know and wasn't expecting, and he played sort of Ethan Hawke's more successful partner, and they've now split. And they have a really good dynamic. Their dialogue between the two of them is really good. They'll have arguments that are really interesting because they can start off quite confrontational, and then they kind of soften, and then they get more confrontation, and then they soften again. Because at the end of the day, while they are sort of professionals and they've sort of both screwed each other over in different ways, they're still very good friends, and I think their acting together is amazing, and I think Andrew Scott did deserve. He won the Silver Lion for the best supporting performance, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I thought that was well deserved from Andrew Scott. The next day, because of the way that the Berlinale, how you get tickets. You can buy tickets at 7:30 a.m. or not buy. You reserve tickets at 7:30 a.m. for the next 2 days, which really means for 2 days in advance. You can't really get a day ahead because often tickets book out like instantly, especially if it's a big name film with big actors and big directors. That's kind of the rhythm that we had to get into. So it made, like, if we go to bed at like midnight or 1 a.m., waking up at 7:20 to log on to your computer and your phone to then buy tickets at 7:30, it becomes pretty hard and pretty stressful. I think eventually there just got to certain days where I was just too tired and I didn't wake up. And so I kind of planned for my last few days in Berlin to just be no films, just going to enjoy the city, visit landmarks. And then on the 19th, I had a few mates who were like, hey, we're going to go see this film. No one else is seeing it. Come with us. So I went into a film called Mad Bills to Pay with no expectations, apart from the fact that I knew that hardly anyone else was seeing it. So kind of low expectations, but this was amazing. This was really good. It's just sort of a story about a guy who's kind of gone nowhere, trying to earn a bit of money, and then something happens and all of a sudden the money struggles get a lot more intense, hence Mad Bills to Pay. Really good movie. Amazing acting, like amazing performances from, I'd say there's 4 main characters, amazing performances from all of them, especially the lead. The lead he was so good. Me and the 2 other guys I saw the film with, we sat in the theater until the credits rolled. We got on our phones and we looked up what else he'd done because it felt so genuine. We genuinely thought like it might have been like a street casting situation where the director just found this guy and then wrote a movie about him because he felt so genuine. It felt like a documentary. The whole film was shot with these like static shots where an entire scene will play out in one shot. It kind of felt like one focal length too. It just felt like vignettes in the most beautiful way. It was almost as if you took a Polaroid and then you wrote a chapter based on that Polaroid. It felt beautiful. Like it was so well shot, well acted, just amazing. Like amazing film. And then we had one other film that we went to see after that called The Safe House. I did not enjoy this. I did not love it. It was just kind of went nowhere. It was based on a real like French political activism thing. This just kind of went nowhere. It was about like the student riots and the like French prime minister or general or some politician is like hiding or apparently it's like he comes to hide with his family and they've like Jewish roots, but they're not Jewish at the moment, but like they had Jewish roots, and then so because of that, one of their ancestors had to like hide because this is set in the 60s and that ancestor was a Jewish man in World War II when the Nazis invaded. So like, you know, I mean, you know what happens there, and so like there's like some metaphor there where like the politician hides in the same place that the Jewish man hid, but they don't really connect it to anything. It's very weird. It's not even weird in an interesting way. It's just like, what's the story? It was like, okay, if it's a political drama, not a lot of political talk. And then it's also like a family drama, but also I didn't really like any of the family members. It's not even like in a Succession way where like, oh, they're all bad people. It was like, no, you clearly want me to like these people. You're clearly painting them as sympathetic in many ways. I just don't care about them. There's one character I like, the grandpa, he was the one who had Jewish ancestry and had to hide under the floorboards. He was good. He had very good. But apart from that, it was just like nothing. Not a lot. There was some experimental things with like these backdrops. Don't know what that was there for. Didn't really feel that interesting. Not even it like. And look, I think filmmakers should be able to just experiment, but it did like. Have it be a metaphor or serve a purpose, that's one, or have it be fun. And it wasn't either, so it's like, I don't even know why you did that, man. It just revealed to me how cheap it looked. And so yeah, that was the last film I saw. Not exactly the most fun, not exactly the most positive way to end the festival, but yeah. Alright, time to rank the films. Look, I mean, it feels mean to be like, these films are bad, because obviously I want to be a filmmaker, and I make short films on YouTube, So really, who am I to judge? But also, like, they have millions of dollars in budgets. So my sympathy is not that extendable. Sorry. If you have a lot of money, you should be able to make something good. I don't feel bad because, like, well, making films is hard. Yeah, I know, man. I feel like I could do kind of better than that with half the budget. Anyway, so at the bottom, and this feels really mean because the director was really young, but after Dreaming, yeah, just if the film was in focus, maybe I would have liked it a lot. But again, the whole film was out of focus. Number 12, Welcome Home, Baby. Again, opening night film. I liked it a lot after seeing it because it was like, oh my god, I'm at the Berlinale. Didn't have a lot of meat. Then The Safe House. Again, sort of a bad way to end the festival. I've realized that the first film and the last film I saw were not that good, unfortunately. Sorry about that. I had to edit my list because I realized that I felt more strongly about the film than I thought I did. Next, we have Deadlock. Again, interesting movie. It was in the 70s, kind of interesting filmmaking, kind of a B-movie, and that interests me. I like B-movies. If anything, my ideal, like, directing job is to just direct, like, a B-movie in 5 days with not that much of a budget. Then next is Hard as a Muscle. Again, I think I just didn't connect with it as much as other people. There was one person I was with, and they loved it. They loved it so much, and I kind of feel bad for not liking it as much because I feel like it would kind of hit, but unfortunately it's not. Then next I have Hot Milk. This was the reason I had to stop and restart. I think I felt worse about it after I saw it, and now looking back, maybe it's the fact that all the bad parts have kind of faded from memory, but like it was pretty good. The next is Blue Moon. This was fun, but again, I'm not really a musical theatre guy. It was a lot of fun just to watch the performances. It felt like from behind the camera, there wasn't a lot of work. Then next I had If I Had Legs I'd Kick You. Really well done. Have to respect it. It was a hard watch, and I think I just connected more with other films, but I could definitely see people loving this a lot. Then next I had Mickey 17. This might just be because in my mind I overhyped it. Some people I was with hated it, but I found it a lot of fun. So I liked it. I like Robert Pattinson and I like Bong Joon-ho. I was always going to like it. Then I have The Narrow Road to the Deep North. Again, not even a film. Really well done, really well shot. Great. Just, I love my country. I really do love my country. I love Australia so much. Yeah, it was heaps of fun. Feels weird to say that about like a horrifying World War II story, to be like, yeah, it was heaps of fun. They were speaking with Australian accents. And I went, oh, I know those. It had The Mentalist. That was fun. It was fun to see him. I liked him. Then for number 3, I have Lesbian Space Princess. Again, I love my country. I love Australia. I love my country. I love Australia, and I specifically love the Australian type of humour. Oh no, wind's coming in, so I have to hurry up. Then second place was Reflection in a Dead Diamond. As I said, I just had so much fun watching this. Heaps of fun. Like, so much fun. Really leans into the campiness of the Bond. I've now started watching some of the older Bond films, and it's like, oh, okay, like I get what they're ripping on. Alright. It's not just like, Skyfall. Leaning into the surrealism that comes with such a campy story as like the original James Bonds. And then my favourite film that I genuinely think is the best is Mad Bills to Pay. Really good. Amazing. Like, you heard me talk about it. It was really good. I'm still just thinking about the ending. The ending was great. Alright, so that's my ranking for the Berlinale. I just want to say that I feel very honoured and very lucky that I was able to go. A great experience. I've never been to Europe before, so to go to Europe and then to see a bunch of these really high-class and prestigious films is such an honour. It's definitely made me realise that I don't even go to like my local film festivals, and now I feel quite bad about that because you discover a lot of like gems in the rough. Not even the rough. Again, this is the Berlinale, but like you discover a lot of films that you wouldn't discover in the first place, or you would only discover if like they get big names and big budgets and big acclaim. So I felt very lucky that I was able to like discover. I mean, my favorite film I had no clue about until I booked it 2 hours before I saw it. So like, I'd say if there's one thing to take away, it's to go to your local film festivals, and you might discover something great. So